What's up guys, Saf here on SuperSaf TV and welcome to the final video of 2020. Quite emotional actually. Not really. Looking forward to 2021. But anyway, this is my long-term review of the iPhone 12 Pro Max. After using it for almost 2 months, I was fortunate enough to get this a little bit earlier than the release date, and I've been using it every single day since. Now, as always, with my longer term reviews, I don't go over too many specs. I've already covered those in my unboxing video. In this video, I'm going to be talking about my experience, what I like about the iPhone 12 Pro Max, what I don't like about it, and what I think can be improved. So this is going to be a pretty long video, but I will try to leave some timestamps down below. You'll want to watch it all because I'll be covering lots of detail. Plus, I mean, it's the holidays. You don't really have much else to do, right? No, just me. Anyway, so let's get to it. Now, to give you some background initially about my personal usage, I've been using iPhones for many years, and I have 2 SIM cards. One SIM card sits in my iPhone, and the other SIM card sits in my Android phone. I think this gives me a pretty unique perspective because I get to use both platforms. So I will be doing some brief comparisons to some features that I have experienced on the Android side of things, which I would also like to see on the iPhone side of things, but this is not going to be a comparison. Right, so let's get to it. The first thing I want to talk about is the display. So the iPhone 12 Pro Max has an excellent display. It's very sharp, bright, vibrant. Love the colors, and it's very color accurate as well. I've not really noticed any display issues on the iPhone 12 Pro Max, and it does give you a great viewing experience, especially on that larger screen. It's also a very durable display. You may have heard that it uses ceramic shield. I always get that wrong. Anyway, Apple don't even call this glass, and it's supposed to be the toughest display on any smartphone. Now, I'm not somebody who does drop tests, but we've seen lots of other YouTubers do drop tests, and ceramic shield definitely does live up. It is certainly a lot more drop resistant. However, it's not any more scratch resistant from what I've found. So if you do want to keep your iPhone in pristine condition, then you might want to consider picking up a screen protector. Now, a couple of things that I would have liked to have seen on the iPhone 12 Pro Max display. Firstly, a higher refresh rate screen. This is currently 60 Hz. You may already know that a lot of the competition have much higher refresh rates. You're looking at averagely around 120 Hz, which is double the refresh rate of an iPhone. And for those of you who are not too familiar with this, it essentially gives you a much smoother viewing experience, especially when you are scrolling through your feeds. If you're gaming at a higher refresh rate, things just feel that much smoother. We do have a ProMotion display on the iPad Pros, and those displays I absolutely love. And although if you are coming from a previous iPhone, it's not really something that you're gonna miss, it is something that I would have liked to have seen. Another thing that I would have really liked to have seen on the iPhone 12 Pro Max is an always-on display. This is something that I'm used to seeing on many other devices. If you have one of the recent Apple Watches, then you may already be used to an always-on display too. And essentially, what an always-on display gives you is some very useful information without actually having to physically wake the display. So if I have my iPhone on my desk, for instance, and I pop out the room for a little bit, I come back. If somebody's called me and I've missed that call, then until I pick up the device and have a look, I'm not gonna know that I've missed that call. Whereas if I had an always-on display, I'd be able to see maybe a small icon of any missed calls or notifications, and then I could decide to pick my iPhone up. And that is so convenient for me. And this is an OLED display, so I don't think there's any technical reasons why you couldn't have it. Yes, it would affect the battery life very slightly, but it's something that I'm hoping Apple can introduce with future updates. Right, another thing a lot of people have been talking about is the notch. Now, honestly speaking, I really don't mind the notch that much. Yes, it does look quite outdated compared to what we're seeing from the competition with small punch outs and things like that. But it's something that I think you really kind of get used to after a bit. And if you're coming from a previous iPhone, I don't think it's really something that you're gonna mind. And within here, of course, you have Face ID. Now, I've generally always liked Face ID. It's very quick and it's very convenient. However, 2020, things have changed, right? we are all now wearing masks more and more. And this is something that I find super annoying. When I'm trying to unlock my phone, if I'm in the supermarket or something, then I have to keep tapping in my passcode. I really wish Apple had introduced Touch ID on the iPhone 12 Pro and 12 Pro Max here on the side on the power button. If we look at the recent iPad Air, that does have Touch ID within the power button and it works really well. If the iPhone 12 Pro Max had that, it would have made things so much more convenient. And then you can kind of choose which you want to have, right? Whether you want to have Touch ID or Face ID. So this is something that I have definitely found frustrating over the past couple of months. And it's something that I think could have been easily solved with Touch ID on the power button. Right, so that's the display. Overall, very good, but definitely lots of room for improvement. Let's now talk about the build and design. So personally speaking, I really do like the design of the iPhone 12 Pro Max. I like the matte finish that we've got at the back, and granted the camera module is pretty much the same as what we had on the iPhone 11 Pro Max, but these flat edges are very appealing to me. I was a big fan of the design of the iPhone 4, 4S, 5, 5S. The flat edges, I think, do look super slick, but there's a couple of things about these flat edges. Firstly, the size. The iPhone 12 Pro Max, although it weighs the same as the iPhone 11 Pro Max, it is slightly bigger in terms of the height and the width. And with these flat edges, it just feels bigger because the iPhone 11 Pro Max has curved edges. It's definitely more comfortable to hold. So this is definitely a big boy, and it's the biggest iPhone that we've had. You do get used to it after a bit. But another thing about these edges is that we've got stainless steel. Now granted, stainless steel is more durable compared to aluminium that we've got on the iPhone 12 mini and the iPhone 12. But this stainless steel frame is such a fingerprint magnet. Like, as soon as you take your smartphone out the box, it's going to be completely covered with fingerprints, literally within seconds of having it. And this is something that I really do not like about this stainless steel band. Now you can get over this by using a case. If you do want a very slim profile case, then you might want to check out some cases from our video sponsor, Bandwerk. Bandwerk iPhone cases are made from premium Italian Napa leather, which is durable and sturdy while maintaining a thin and light profile. Bandwerk iPhone cases are also 100% handcrafted in a specialized manufactory in Italy and presented gift wrapped and packaged in a wooden box to add to that premium experience. Bandwerk also sell lots of other products such as premium Apple Watch straps like the one I'm wearing here. And this is made from original shell Cordovan leather from the famous Holween tannery in Chicago, which is one of the most exclusive premium materials that the leather market offers. And once again, carefully handmade and gift wrapped. If you want to pick up a premium case for your iPhone or an Apple Watch strap, then I will leave a link to Bandwerk down in the description below. Let's now move on to my favorite thing of the iPhone 12 Pro Max, and that is the cameras. Now let me just go ahead and say that the iPhone 12 Pro Max, in my opinion, has the best all-round cameras on any smartphone right now. And the key here is consistency. Lots of other smartphones out there are great and in some areas actually do better compared to the iPhone 12 Pro Max in areas such as zoom, for example. But when it comes to the overall package for images and video, the iPhone 12 Pro Max is my pick, and it's the smartphone that's always in my pocket and is always reliable. As expected, you've got great detail, excellent natural colors, as well as great dynamic range. Couple of things that you get on the iPhone 12 Pro Max which you don't get on any other iPhone. Firstly, the 65mm telephoto camera, which is roughly about 2.5 times zoom. Now, Apple doesn't seem to be interested in zoom, right? We've not got any crazy amounts of zoom, but 65mm is excellent for portraits. Now, a lot of you guys will already know that I'm a huge fan of portrait photography, and I think the iPhone 12 Pro Max does an excellent job. 65mm portraits on the iPhone 12 Pro Max are absolutely excellent. In terms of colors, this can be subjective. I have noticed that the iPhone 12 Pro Max does go more towards the orange side for skin tones, especially in direct sunlight. But I personally don't mind it, and I do prefer it to the more pale tones that you get on other smartphones. Another new thing that we've got on the iPhone 12 Pro and the 12 Pro Max is Apple ProRAW, and this gives you the ability to capture raw images on your iPhones, and it's so nice to have. However, it's not something that I think you'll be using all the time. And that's because the images that you get out of the iPhone as standard are excellent anyway with all of the image processing. However, certain situations where you might want to tweak a few things after the fact, having Apple ProRAW is a big advantage because you get so much more information in your images. Now, this information does come at a cost of file size, of course. So ProRAW images are around 10 times larger compared to standard images. And I do like the fact that you've got the quick toggle within the camera app so you can switch ProRAW on and off whenever you need it, because it's really not something that you're gonna have on all the time. The iPhone 12 Pro and 12 Pro Max also have the LiDAR Scanner. Now, this has a bunch of AR benefits. I'm not somebody who uses AR too much, but what I do like having the LiDAR Scanner for is for low light situations, because autofocus in low light, thanks to the LiDAR Scanner, is very good. And also low light portraits. So using the LiDAR Scanner, the iPhone 12 Pro and 12 Pro Max can actually take really good portraits in low light, something that you couldn't really do before. Now, there is a bit of a catch, and that is that portraits in low lights only look good using the primary camera at 1x. So all of that stuff that I said earlier on about the 65mm portraits doesn't really apply to low light portraits. And that's because the telephoto camera does not have as much of a larger sensor size as the primary camera does. And it also doesn't have as much of a wider aperture. Now let's move on to video. And in my opinion, I know I've said this many times before, but the iPhone 12 Pro Max is still the king when it comes to video on a smartphone. The video quality that you get on here is absolutely excellent, and it's very consistent across all of the cameras. And this year, you may have already heard that we have HDR video with Dolby Vision, which gives you some amazing results. Now, when the iPhone 12 Pro Max initially released, if I was to try to upload a video onto the likes of Instagram and Twitter, they would not look good at all. But this has been improved with time. And now if I do upload an HDR video onto one of these social media platforms, it will be made into a format that is viewable across all devices. We also now have sensor shift optical image stabilization on the primary camera, and this gives you some amazing stabilization. I believe this is the first, if not one of the first smartphones with sensor shift optical image stabilization. And yeah, the video footage is so stable. I've mounted this on my car window and it's like shaking like anything, but the video footage is super smooth. Now, one area on the video which is not great, unfortunately, is 4K 60 frames a second from the front-facing camera. So 4K 60 frames a second from the rear-facing cameras is absolutely great. But as soon as you switch to 4K 60 frames a second from the front-facing camera, dynamic range goes out the window. Highlights are completely blown out, and HDR video with Dolby Vision is not supported at 4K 60 frames a second from the front-facing camera. So this is something that I actually didn't realize until I spent some time testing the iPhone 12 Pro Max. And dynamic range from the front-facing camera at 4K 60 FPS was not really an issue for me on the iPhone 11 Pro Max. So I'm not sure why this is an issue on the iPhone 12 Pro Max. I hope it can be improved with a software update. But overall, when it comes to the cameras of the iPhone 12 Pro Max, I do think, once again, they are some of the best on the market right now, and I don't think you're going to be disappointed. Now let's talk a little bit about the performance. So the iPhone 12 Pro Max, as you probably already know, is powered by Apple's latest A14 Bionic chip, and this time we have 5G. Now, as expected, performance is absolutely great on the iPhone 12 Pro Max. It's super smooth, and I think more so if you are going to be keeping this for a few years, you can be confident that a couple of years down the line, this is still going to be performing very well. We've also got some more RAM this year on the iPhone 12 Pro Max compared to last year, and that should help it a little bit more with multitasking. However, it's still not perfect. I'll give you an example. I'm trying to upload a video to my story. I can press the upload button. If I leave the app and go into another app, then that video will not finish uploading until I go back into Instagram. This is not a problem that I've had on, say, my Samsung Galaxy Note 20 Ultra. I can leave something uploading, go do whatever else I want, and it will still carry on uploading in the background. Now, I'm not sure if this is a hardware limitation, if the iPhone 12 Pro Max needs more RAM, or if it's something that needs to be improved in software, but it still has some way to go. Now, speaking of the software, we of course have the latest iOS 14, and I really do like iOS 14. I love the introduction of the widgets that we now have, and I know Android users are going to be going crazy in the comments saying we've had this for many, many years. That's absolutely fine. It's nice to have the flexibility that you have now. And if you are somebody that's traditionally been on Android and you're considering moving to an iPhone, I think now with iOS 14, you're gonna find that transition much easier. But there are still lots of things on iOS 14 which I think can be improved. My main thing is one-hand usability. I don't think that space is utilized best on iOS 14. I mean, look at this. We've got such a massive screen, but look how much wasted space there is in between icons, right? Now, I know Apple likes to keep things consistent, so across all of the iPhones, you have this 4-column grid, but it just means that I can't get as much as I would like, and look how high these icons are. Now, granted, I could always use reachability, but I don't want to keep doing that, right? I like to have my most used icons along the bottom. And previously it was even worse because what I would have to do is I'd have to put apps which I least use all the way at the top. So those are right at the top. And if I do need to use them, I can just use reachability. But I'd have my most used apps towards the bottom. Now with widgets, I can kind of space these out. So I can have my widgets at the top. So you can see here that I've got the clock and I've got the weather. I like to leave those at the top because I don't really need to interact with those. I can just see those at a glance. And then my apps that I use most are towards the bottom. But again, look at the spacing here. I think this could be utilized much, much better. Now let's talk a little bit about 5G. So all of the new iPhones come with 5G, which in my opinion is absolutely great. Having 5G means that you have future-proofed your smartphone. So you might not be able to take advantage of it right away. And that's something that I have found right now during lockdown. I've not been able to get out too much. And in my personal area, there is very minimal 5G coverage. So it's not something that I've been able to take full advantage of. But whenever I have been in town or out and about, then having 5G means I get some very, very fast speeds. So yeah, although you may not be able to take full advantage of the 5G speeds depending on your area, this is something that I think is nice to have to future-proof your device. Now let's talk about the battery life and the whole charging situation. So the iPhone 12 Pro Max has got excellent battery life. I would say it's almost the same as the battery life that I was getting on my iPhone 11 Pro Max. So I'm getting through the full day with around 6 hours of screen on time, if not more. Having said that, my usage has mostly been at home on Wi-Fi, not using too much 5G because we are in lockdown. But regardless, I think the iPhone 12 Pro Max, if you are somebody who's a heavy user, this will be the iPhone to go for, thanks to that larger battery and the better battery life compared to the other iPhones. And when it comes to charging, you guys may already know that Apple does not include a charger out of the box. Now, Apple have said this is to save on carbon emissions, and I'm all for that. And honestly speaking, personally, I generally mostly use wireless charging anyway, and I have wireless chargers across my house. The iPhone 12 Pro Max does support wireless charging, which is great. But here's the thing, right? Unless you're coming to the iPhone 12 Pro Max from an iPhone 11 Pro or an iPhone 11 Pro Max, you are likely to only have a slow 5-watt charger. You're not gonna have the fast 18-watt charger, which was only included in the iPhone 11 Pro and the iPhone 11 Pro Max box. And generally speaking, most people are on a 2-year upgrade cycle. Most people I know anyway will usually have a 2-year contract and then upgrade. And if you are one of those people, again, you're gonna have an older 5-watt charger, which will charge the iPhone 12 Pro Max up fine. It's just gonna be very, very slow. And the other factor you have to consider is MagSafe. So MagSafe, I'm a fan. I do really like MagSafe, and I like the convenience of it as well. If you've used wireless charging before, I'm sure you've had this situation where you are going to sleep, you drop your smartphone on the wireless charging pad, you wake up and it's completely dead. And that's because the smartphone hasn't been properly aligned to the wireless charging mat, so it's not being able to get any charge at all, and that's super annoying. With MagSafe, you don't have to worry about that because it just snaps on very quickly and conveniently. But here's the thing with MagSafe. If you buy a MagSafe charger, which costs around £40, it does not come with a power brick. So if you want faster charging on your iPhone 12 Pro Max, or even if you want MagSafe charging, you're gonna have to get a USB-C fast charger separately. Granted, this is cheaper compared to what we've had in previous years, so it's about £20 now, which is pretty reasonable in my opinion. But regardless, you're gonna have to still buy that separately. Now, that, in my opinion, kind of cancels out a lot of the saved carbon emissions that Apple claims, because let's say even if half the people that buy a new iPhone 12 Pro or 12 Pro Max have to then go out and buy a USB-C fast charger separately, what about all the carbon emissions that are coming from those chargers that are being bought separately, right? I'm sure they cancel out a lot of those claimed savings that Apple have presented. Now, I know I've gone on about this quite a bit, but it's just something that I had to address. What do you guys think? Do let me know in the comments below. Do you mind not having a charger out of the box of the iPhone 12 Pro Max? Now, one thing that might actually make up for the fact that you don't get a charger included out of the box with the iPhone 12 Pro Max is the fact that it's actually priced cheaper, at least in the UK, compared to what the iPhone 11 Pro Max came in at. So you're looking at a saving of £50, and you do get double the base storage, 128 gigabytes instead of the 64 that we got with the base iPhone 11 Pro Max last year. And if we compare the 256 gigabyte or 512 gigabyte variants of the iPhones, then you're actually going to be paying £100 less in the UK or $50 less in the US compared to the iPhone 11 Pro Max last year. Based on that, even if you were to buy a MagSafe charger with an 18-watt power brick, you'd still be saving some money compared to what you would have paid the same time last year on the iPhone 11 Pro Max. So in terms of pricing, I think Apple have actually priced the new iPhones pretty well this year compared to last year. And that is the iPhone 12 Pro Max. Overall, I think this is an excellent smartphone, and if you do want the best that Apple has to offer, then this is the smartphone to go for. It will be the iPhone that's going to be staying in my pocket for the coming year, especially for those cameras. What do you think of the iPhone 12 Pro Max? Do drop me a comment below. Let me know your thoughts. I hope you enjoyed this video and found it useful. I did try to cover as much detail as possible. If you did, then do hit that thumbs up button for me. And if you haven't already and you want to see more content like this, then be sure to subscribe and hit that bell icon. We've got loads more new quality content coming in 2021. Thanks for watching. This is Saf on SuperSaf TV, and I'll see you next time.